Hey, boys and girls, you're going to continue studying the unicellular and multicellular organisms in science today. You're going to read over this Google slide with me, and then you're going to go back to your own Google slide and answer the questions that are on each of the slides before you submit your answers. All right, so let's go on this. All right, so what are characteristics of living things? We have a video right here we're going to watch after we read this insert right here. And then you're going to use the word bank down at the bottom to drag into this box to answer this question. What are some of the life processes? So we want to be listening for life processes that we have to consider what living things are. All right, so let's begin. All living things, or excuse me, all organisms are living things, and all living things are made of cells. But how do we know something is living? We know something is living if it is able to complete life processes. Watch the video to learn more about these processes and then complete this activity.
Welcome to Math and Characteristics of Living Things. Why are some objects considered alive and other objects considered not alive? Let's look at the 7 characteristics of living things. The first characteristic of living things is that all living things are composed of cells. Next, living things grow and develop. Living things reproduce and produce offspring. Living things also contain DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Living things require energy for their daily activities. Living things respond to stimuli. Let's see an example. Living things also have levels of organization. Thanks for watching. Moving Math uploads a new math video, science, for motivation every day. Please.
Okay, so that was a pretty good little video on what are the life processes. And so you had a lot of different examples of what living things have to do in order to be considered alive. And we had everything on there from the single cell organisms like the parameciums that they showed to many different multi-celled organisms from plants to people. All right, and so you're going to complete this slide once you're on your own by dragging and dropping what some of those life processes are into this box. What makes something living? We cannot see cells because they are so small, but when cells are put together, they form tissues. Different tissues combine to form organs. When multi-organs or multiple organ systems work together, they create systems. Some organisms require systems to help them carry out the life processes. Now, we would be an organism like that. So most of the organisms that are around in our lives, like humans and dogs and cats and any large animals, even insects, they have to have multiple organs working together in these systems to keep them alive. And so if you think about your own body, we've got heart, lungs, we've got stomachs, we have muscles, we have a skeletal system. So we've got all kinds of different cells that make each of those, the tissues that make those organs. And then those organs work together to create these systems that allow us to function. And so we're quite complicated organisms. So we would be complicated multi-cell organisms. But as in the second paragraph, some organisms are made up of one cell, while other organisms are made up of many. But how do we know if something is an organism? What defines something as living? A stuffed dog may look like a dog, but we know it isn't living because it cannot complete any of the life processes. For something, as you can hear my dog scratching at the door, that is definitely something that is living. He is not a stuffed dog, but he may find himself being stuffed if he doesn't stop doing that. Anyway, a stuffed dog may look like a dog, but we know it isn't because it cannot complete any of the life processes. For something to be defined as living, it must be able to perform all of the life processes. These processes are movement, respiration. In humans, that would be we breathe so that we can burn the calories that we eat. In plants, that would be when they do photosynthesis, they take in that carbon dioxide and give off oxygen. Sensitivity. So we are sensitive to the things that are going on around us. In that video, they showed the sleeping man getting water poured on him, and he was sensitive to what was going on and he responded to it. Another process is growth. Another is getting rid of waste. And then, of course, everything has to reproduce in order for their species not to become extinct. And then nutrition. We have to take in food or take in some sort of energy to keep all of our cells functioning. Okay, in this slide, you see that it has something called levels of organization. So these cells at the most very basic level, they start organizing together to form tissue. So you have certain types of cells that come together to form tissues, and then they grow and grow and grow, and those tissues form into organs, and then those organs form into cells. All right, and so you're going to use the information from the slide that we just read, and then you're going to drag and drop these terms into the box that would work for that particular picture. Okay, in this explore activity, you're going to think about things that are living and non-living. It says you need a notebook and a pencil. That's just to write down your thoughts first, but then you're going to put your thoughts into this document here. So you can click on it and type in what you want to about what living and non-living things you can see around you. So it says get a notebook and a pencil, go outside and spend about 5 minutes in the yard and take notes on the things that are living and things that are non-living, and then come back and record your findings here. So if I was to go out and look in my yard, I know that there are lots of living things and lots of non-living things. Living things are everything from the grass that's growing in the yard to any sort of insect that's out there. I can see moss growing on rocks and on trees, non-living things. There's definitely lots of that. My car in the driveway is non-living. There are rocks and gravel out there in the yard. The road itself, blacktop road, those are examples of living and non-living. And then I would also think about things like the air. Is it living or non-living? No, it's not living. Or water. So there's lots of examples of living and non-living things right in your own yard. Now, unicellular organisms, you've been looking at a lot of these lately, this week anyway, but these are some different types of unicellular organisms here. The amoeba, one-celled organism. Bacteria, a protist, a paramecium, and we saw paramecium in the video that was a couple of slides ago. These organisms are made up of just one cell. That's what uni or una means. They are so small that they usually can only be seen through a microscope. They perform all life functions within that one cell and reproduce through cell division. So all of the life processes that we read about or saw in that video, these single cell organisms do it all within one cell. Whereas multicellular animals, we have to have a bunch of different types of cells to do all those life processes. So unicellular organisms, even though they're very simple, they're quite amazing. A unicellular organism is a living thing that is made up of just one cell. And then we have some statements here, and you are to read them and determine which two are true and which one is a lie. All right, so you have these three statements here. A unicellular organism can perform respiration and digestion within itself. So the one cell can perform respiration and digestion all within its own self. Or a cell can't be an organism on its own. So this statement says that there really can't be an organism that's only one cell big. And then the third statement, a unicellular organism does most of the same things as multicellular organisms. So thinking about the life processes, would you say that a unicellular organism, in order to be considered living, that it can do most of the same things as multicellular organisms that are more complicated? All right, so two of those sentences are true and one is a lie. Then it says once you find the one that's a lie, rewrite it as a correct statement. So you want to reword it to make it something that's true. All right, do you know which one is true, or which two are true and which one is not true? Okay, so let's watch this video that might give us some more information about that.
All living things are made up of one or more cells. Trees, elephants, moss, a paramecium. Sometimes the cell is the organism. Single-celled or unicellular organisms do many of the same things as multicellular organisms. They grow, eat, excrete, and reproduce. There are two basic types of cells. Those without nuclei are called prokaryotes. Their DNA floats freely through the cytoplasm. In eukaryotes, a cell nucleus protects the DNA. Single-celled organisms can move in different ways. This paranema, 1/50,000th of a millimeter long, has an especially thick flagellum that pushes it forward. other organisms have cilia, hair-like structures that are effective motors for moving through water, for walking over surfaces, for bringing food toward the cell. An amoeba moves by reaching out its flexible membrane and forming a pseudopod, or false foot. The cytoplasm of the amoeba streams into the pseudopod, and the rest of the cell follows. Within the single cell are organelles that carry out life processes such as digestion, respiration, and water regulation. In this paramecium, the contractile vacuole collects excess water. Then, when it's full, it suddenly contracts and pumps water out. Here, an amoeba engulfs a green euglena. It forms a food vacuole where it will digest its prey and pass on nutrients to the rest of the cell. The cell membrane controls the flow of nutrients, oxygen, and waste into and out of the cell. Found in almost all eukaryotic cells, mitochondria are organelles that break down food and release energy. These long cells with green chloroplasts are euglenas. Their red eye spots help them find sunlight, and as long as there is light, they obtain energy through photosynthesis, just like plants. A species must be able to reproduce, to pass on its genes to the next generation. When a single-celled organism reproduces, it duplicates its DNA, with each daughter cell receiving a complete copy of the parent's genes.
Okay, so you can use the information on that video to determine which two are true and which is a lie. For multicellular organisms like yourself, we have specialized cells. Multicellular organisms have specialized cells. And specialized cell, you see it has the word special in it. That means they have different jobs that they are designed to do. They each have a special job to help the organism function. They work together in different ways so that the organism can carry out all life functions. Without all of the specialized cells working together, the organism could not perform all life functions. Okay, so the first type of specialized cell that a multicellular organism would have is something called the dendrite, and that's also known as a nerve cell, a short extension of a nerve cell that carries messages from the brain, a brain cell. And then we have skeletal muscle cells, and they look completely different than the dendrite because they have a different job to do. The skeletal muscle cell connects to bones and allows your body to move. And then red blood cells, you've probably heard of those before, moves oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. So they go through the veins of your body and carry oxygen and nutrients to all the other cells. And then white blood cells, they help fight off infections. So these are just a few examples of the thousands of different types of cells that multicellular organisms have in order to perform all the life functions. A multicellular organism is a living thing that is made up of many different kinds of cells that do different jobs. Let's look at the questions that you're going to want to be able to explain after we watch this video of unicellular versus multicellular. Question: why does a multicellular organism have a longer lifespan than a unicellular organism? All right, so multicellular organisms live longer than some of these unicellular organisms like the amoeba or the paramecium or some of the others you saw in the other video. Why is that? And so you want to be able to explain, why do multicellular organisms live longer or have a longer lifespan than the one-celled organisms? And then the second question, why can't a multicellular organism grow large in size while a unicellular organism can't? So multicellular organisms like people and trees and elephants, they can get very large, but those amoebas and parameciums, they're microscopic. They stay small. Why is it like that? All right, so those are the two things that we're going to be looking to answer in this video.
Multicellular. They consist of multiple cells and are more complex. Did you know that some organisms exist of just one cell? These simple organisms, like amoeba, are unicellular. They depend on simple diffusion for life. They're usually too small to be visible with the naked eye, like bacteria, and so we need a microscope to see them. But there are some unicellular algae that are about 15 to 20 centimeters in size. All other organisms are multicellular. They consist of multiple cells and are more complex. The vast majority of plants and animals are multicellular. Being multicellular allows the organisms to be larger and have cell differentiation, so different types of cells to carry out different tasks. Groups of cells then function in the same way to form tissues or organs. These specialized organs carry out our life processes, working together in systems. Unicellular organisms can carry out all life processes in just the one cell, using internal structures called organelles. The decreased ability to share out life processes means unicellular organisms have a low level of efficiency, whereas multicellular organisms are highly efficient, with division of labor at the cellular, tissue, or organ system level. Unicellular organisms cannot grow large because they're limited by a surface area to volume ratio, whereas multicellular organisms can increase the number of small cells to give it a large size overall. Multicellular organisms have long lifespans because individual cells have a relatively small workload, whereas the hard-working single cell of a unicellular organism has such a heavy workload that it can only maintain a very short lifespan.
Okay, well, that gave us a lot of information in that little video. For example, we found out that a longer lifespan in the multicellular organism is possible because its cells don't have to work as hard. Since it has a lot of different types of specialized cells, they don't have all the jobs to do for that particular cell. They only do one particular job because they do a special job. And then other cells in that organism have their own special jobs to do. But in a one-celled organism, that one cell has to do all the jobs to keep that organism alive because it's only got one cell, so it does everything. So that workload is one of the reasons that a multicellular organism has a longer lifespan than a unicellular. And then why can a multicellular organism grow large in size while a unicellular or one-celled organism can't? And sort of the name gives us a clue there. We were told in the video that a single-cell organism has only just one cell. It has a limited area that its body covers, and it's just not very big. Whereas a multicellular organism has multiple cells, and so they can combine to make a bigger organism. Okay, and you can re-watch that video if you want to explain that yourself, or you can re-listen to what we have talked about here. Okay, that's going to end the slides for you. And so you're going to find your own, you're going to have your own version of this, and you're going to type in the answers into each of the slides and then submit that for your assignment. All right, good luck on this, and I hope you liked it.